I'd like to welcome you to the House of Thrillers. I'm Scully, the author that reads to you. I read my novels and other works in the public domain and submissions from people like you. So if you like books on tape with a twist, stick around, subscribe to the channel. It's that little red button below the video. And if you're on a phone, don't forget to hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Today we're going to be replaying a couple of classics. Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat and The Fall of the House of Usher. So buckle up. It's quite the ride. And we'll see you on the other side. Scuss. The most hated grower. Jenny, Scuff. Kick back, darling, and listen to some great classic work here. Edgar Allan Poe. Tingle. Scuss. PPR. Scuss. Tingle. Dare. Oh man, pull up a seat, listen to Scully read some classics. VIP TWP popcorn. House of Thrillers. Books on tape with a twist. Chica. Disco Bob, Sister Tingles, 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 my sister's voice. Cuz, 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 cuz. Sable, 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 sable. Tingle, tingle, tingle. Sable, sable. They're coming in. Share it out. Share it out. Carrie, welcome, Carrie. She's going to be reading a little Edgar Allan Poe today. Kitty, 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 It's Northwoods Press. Northwoods Press. Welcome, welcome. Buckle up, buckle up, buckle up. Getting ready to get started here, guys. Got your popcorn or your coffee, tea. How you doing today, Sable? How about you, Jenny Tingles? You doing all right? Thank you for sharing that out, sisters. I certainly appreciate that. Appreciate everybody and their time for coming in. You're highly welcome to the House of Thrillers. I'm Scully, your host, the author that reads to you. Get ready. Kick your feet up, relax. Got a couple of good stories for you today. These were pre-recorded. One is in the past year and the other was about 2 years ago. Shrimp and grits. Shrimp and grits. C'est la vie. How you doing, Hazy darling? WP popcorn. Howdy, Nikki. Push those earbuds in deep. I hear you. Loco, Benny Loco. Know not how it was, but with the first glimpse, when the clouds hung oppressively low in the heavens, I had been passing along on horseback through a singularly dreary tract of country. And at length I found myself, as the shades of the evening drew on, within view of the melancholy house of Usher. I know not how it was, but with the first glimpse of the building, a sense of insufferable gloom pervaded my spirit. I say insufferable, for the feeling was unrelieved by any of that half pleasurable, because poetic sentiment with which the mind usually receives even the sternest natural images of the desolate are terrible. I looked upon the scene before me, upon the mere house and simple landscape features of the domain, upon the bleak walls, upon the vacant eye-like windows, upon a few rank sledges, upon a few white trunks of decayed trees, with an utter depression of soul which I can compare to no earthly sensation more properly, and to compare to no after dream of the reveler upon opium, bitter lapse into everyday life, the hideous dropping of the veil, Swampy 6333, Swampy 363. Pamiska. There was an iciness, a sinking, a sickening of the heart, an unredeemed dreariness of thought, which no goading of the imagination could torture into aught of the sublime. What was it? I paused to think. What was it that so unnerved me in the contemplation of the house of Usher? Off the wall, preppy. It was a mystery all insoluble, nor could I grapple with the shadowy fancies that crowded upon me as I pondered. I was forced to fall back upon the unsatisfactory conclusion that while, beyond doubt, there are combinations of very simple natural objects which have the power of thus affecting us, still the analysis of this power lies among considerations beyond our depth. It was possible, I reflected, that a mere different arrangement of the particulars of the scene, of the details of the picture, would be sufficient to modify, or perhaps to annihilate, its capacity for sorrowful impression. Oh, in acting upon this idea, I reined my horse to the precipitous brink of a black and lurid tarn that lay in unruffled luster by the dwelling, and gazed down, but with a shudder even more thrilling than before, upon the remodeled and inverted images of the Christ's edge and the ghastly tree stems and the vacant and eye-like windows. Nevertheless, in this mansion of gloom, I now proposed to myself a sojourn of some weeks. Its proprietor, Roderick Usher, had been one of my boon companions in boyhood, but many years had elapsed since our last meeting. A letter, however, had lately reached me in a distant part of the country, a letter from him which, in its wildly opportune nature, had admitted of no other than a personal reply. The MS gave evidence of nervous agitation, The writer spoke of acute bodily illness, of a mental disorder which oppressed him, of an earnest desire to see
Hey,
me
Imperialism, welcome to the
as
show.
his best and indeed his only
How you
personal
doing?
friend, with a view of attempting by the cheerfulness of my society some alleviation of his malady. It was the manner in which all this, and much more, was said. It was the apparent heart that went with his request, which allowed me no room for hesitation. And I accordingly obeyed forthwith what I still considered a very singular summons. And welcome off the wall, prepper. Maple tingles, welcome, welcome. Prepper tingle, tingle. How you doing, Prepper? Easy, pal. Professional paranormal tingle, tingle. Lover tingles. A child. Skull. A child. Skull. Although, as boys, we had been even intimate associates, yet I really knew little of my friend. His reserve had been always excessive and habitual. I was aware, however, that his very ancient family had been noted time out of mind for a peculiar sensibility of temperament, displaying itself through long ages and many works of exalted art, and manifested of late in repeated deeds of munificent yet unobtrusive charity, as well as in a passionate devotion to the intricacies, perhaps even more than to the orthodox and easily recognizable beauties of musical science. I learned too the very remarkable fact that the stem of the Usher race, all time honored as it was, put forth at no period any enduring branch. In other words, that the entire family lay in the direct line of descent, and that always, with very trifling and very temporary variation, so lay. It was in this deficiency I considered. Well, running in thought the perfect keeping of the character of the premises with the accredited character of the people, while speculating upon the possible influence which the one chick. Catch it for a second. How's everybody doing out there? Brain tingle, tingle, tingle. Brain tingle, 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 tingle. Scuff, 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 scuff. It was this deficiency, perhaps, of collateral issue and the consequent undeviating transmission from sire to son of the patrimony with the name, which had at length so identified the two as to merge the original title of the estate and the quaint and unequivocal appellation of the House of Usher, an appellation which seemed to include in the minds of the peasantry who used it both the family and the family mansion. Scud, 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 scud. Scuddy pop, 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 pop. Learn to grow with hand. I've said that the sole effect of my somewhat childish experiment, that of looking down with Tarn, had been to deepen the first singular impression. There can be no doubt that the consciousness of the rapid increase of my superstition, or why should I not so term it, served mainly to accelerate the increase itself. Such I've long known as the paradoxical law of all sentiments having terror as basis. And it might have been for this reason only that when I again uplifted my eyes to the house itself, from its image in the pool, there grew in my mind a strange fancy. Fancy so ridiculous indeed that I but mention it to show the vivid force of the sensations which oppressed me. I so worked upon my imagination as really to believe that about the whole mansion and domain there hung an atmosphere peculiar to themselves in their immediate vicinity. An atmosphere which had no affinity with the air of heaven, but which had reeked up from the decayed trees and the great wall and the silent horn. Pestilent and mystic vapor, dull, sluggish, faintly discernible, leaden hued. Scuss, 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 scuss. Shaking off from my spirit what must have been a dream, I scanned more narrowly the real aspect of the building. Its principal feature seemed to be that of an excessive antiquity. The discoloration of ages had been gray. Minute fungi overspread the whole exterior, hanging in a fine tangled webwork of the eaves. Yet all this was apart from any extraordinary dilapidation. No portion of the masonry had fallen, and there appeared to be a wild inconsistency between its still perfect adaptation of parts and the crumbling condition of the individual stones. In this, there was much that reminded me of the spacious totality of old woodwork which had rotted for long years in some neglected vault, with no disturbance from the breath of external air. Beyond this indication of extensive decay, however, the fabric gave little token of instability. Perhaps the eye of a scrutinizing observer might have discovered a barely perceptible fissure, which, extending from the roof of the building in front, made its way down the wall in a zigzag direction until it became lost in the sullen waters of the tarn. Hey, Pindar, how you doing? Hope everybody's relaxed, having a good time. Hey, Mom knows. Ska. Give me a big ska if you're having fun. Noticing these things, I rode over a short causeway to the house. A servant in waiting took my horse, and I entered the Gothic archway of the hall. A valet of stealthy step thence conducted me in silence through many dark and intricate passages in my progress to the studio of his master. Much that I encountered on the way contributed, I know not how, to heighten the vague sentiments of which I have already spoken. While the objects around me, while the carvings of the ceiling, the somber tapestries on the walls, the ebon blackness of the floors, and the phantasmagoric armorial trophies which rattled as I strode, were but matters to which, to such as which, I'd been accustomed from my infancy. While I hesitated not to acknowledge how familiar was all this, I still wondered to find how unfamiliar were the fancies which ordinary images were stirring up. On one of the staircases, I met the physician of the family. His countenance, I thought, wore a mingled expression of low cunning and perplexity. He accosted me with trepidation and passed on. The valet now threw open a door and ushered me into the presence of his master. Skittles. Casper Northerner. The room in which I found myself was very large and lofty. The windows were long, narrow, and pointed, and at so vast a distance from the black oaken floor as to be altogether inaccessible from within. Feeble gleams of encrimsoned light made their way through the trellis panes and served to render sufficiently distinct the more prominent objects around. The eye, however, struggled in vain to reach the remoter angles of the chamber or the recesses of the vaulted and fretted ceiling. Dark draperies hung on the walls. The general furniture was profuse, comfortless, antique, and tattered. Many books and musical instruments lay scattered about, failed to give any vitality to the scene. I felt that I breathed an atmosphere of sorrow. An air of stern, deep, and irredeemable gloom hung over and pervaded all. Hey Tanya, how you doing? What's going up on me here? Stream keeps jacking my volume up. Judy May. It's Judy May. Hey Judy. Tanya Tinkles. Pindar. The weekend went away too fast, but I am blessed as well. Upon my entrance, Usher rose from a sofa on which he had been lying at full length and greeted me with a vivacious warmth which had much in it, I at first thought, of an overdone cordiality, of the constrained effort of the ennuyé man of the world. A glance, however, at his countenance convinced me of his perfect sincerity. We sat down. Some moments while he spoke not, I gazed upon him with a feeling half of pity, half of awe. Surely a man had never been before so terribly altered in so brief a period as had Roderick Usher. It was with difficulty that I It was with difficulty that I could bring myself to admit the identity of the one being before me with the companion of my early boyhood. Yet the character of his face had been at all times remarkable. The cadaverousness of complexion, and eye large, liquid, and luminous beyond comparison. Lips somewhat thin and very pallid, but of a surpassingly beautiful curve. A nose of a delicate Hebrew model, with a breadth of nostril unusual and similar formations. Finely molded chin speaking in its want of prominence, of a want of moral energy, hair of a more than web-like softness and tenuity. These features, with an inordinate expansion above the regions of the temple, made up altogether a countenance not easily to be forgotten. And now, in the mere exaggeration of the prevailing character of these features, and of the expression they were wont to convey, lay so much of change that I doubted to whom I spoke. The now ghastly pallor of the skin, and the now miraculous luster of the eye, above all things startled and even awed me. The silken hair, too. Grew all unheeded as in its wild gossamer texture. It floated rather than fell about the face. I cannot even with effort connect its arabesque expression with any idea of simple humanity. Scuss, 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 scuss. Scuss, 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 scuss. Scuss, 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 scuss. Tongue tingle, 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 tingle. Stony tingle, 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 tingle. The mega disappointment, tingle, 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 tingle. Kim Maple, tingle, 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 tingle. Naughty Nikki, tingle, tingle, tingle. Judy May, tingle, tingle, tingle. Stony tingle, tingle, tingle. Smoked out for 2020. AC Scott, AC Scott, AC Scott. Marley's delight, delight, delight. Jonica tingle, 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 tingle. Jonica tingle, tingle, tingle. Tanya tingle, tingle, tingle. Scuss, 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 scuss. Ixie pa. Scuss, 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 scuss. Scuzzy, scuss, 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 scuss. Well, I hate to do it to y'all, but I gotta go to the bathroom real quick. Ha. Be right back. How you doing? And to that species of energetic concision, that abrupt, weighty, unhurried, and hollow-sounding enunciation, that leaden, self-balanced, and perfectly modulated guttural utterance. Which may be observed in the lost drunkard, or the irreclaimable eater of opium during the periods of his most intense excitement. Mega tingles, mega tingles. It was thus that he spoke of the object of my visit, of his earnest desire to see me, and of the solace he expected me to afford him. He entered at some length into what he conceived to be the nature of his malady. It was, he said, a constitutional and a family evil, and from one which he despaired to find a remedy. A mere nervous affection, he immediately added, which undoubtedly soon pass off. It displayed itself in a host of unnatural sensations. Some of these, as he detailed them, interested and bewildered me. Although perhaps the terms and general manner of their narration had their weight. He suffered much from a morbid acuteness of the senses. The most insipid food was alone endurable. He could wear out garments of certain texture. The odors of all flowers were oppressive. His eyes were tortured by even a faint light. There were but peculiar sounds, these from stringed instruments, which did not inspire him with horror. To an anomalous species of terror, I found him a bold and bound slave. I shall perish, he said. I must perish in this deplorable folly. Thus and not otherwise shall I be lost. I dread the events of the future, not in themselves, but in their results. I shudder at the thought of any, even the most trivial incident, which may operate upon this intolerable agitation of soul. I have, indeed, no abhorrence of danger, except in its absolute effect and terror. In this unnerved and this pitiable condition, I feel that the period will sooner or later arrive when I must abandon life and reason altogether. In some struggle with the grim phantasm, fear, blood, 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 Scully, Scully, Scully. I learn, moreover, at intervals and through broken and unequivocal hints, another singular feature of his mental condition. He was enchained by certain superstitious impressions in regard to the dwelling which he tended, and whence for many years he had never ventured forth. In regard to an influence whose supposititious force was conveyed in terms too shadowy here to be restated. An influence, some peculiarities mere form of substance of his family mansion had by dint of long sufferance, he said, tamed over his spirit and effect with the physique of the great walls and turrets. Of the dim tarn into which they all looked down had at length brought about upon the morale of his existence. He admitted, however, although with hesitation, that much of the peculiar gloom which thus afflicted him could be traced to a more natural and far more palpable origin, to the severe and long-continued illness, indeed to the evidently approaching dissolution of a tenderly beloved sister, his sole companion for long years, his last and only relative on earth. Deceased, he said, with a bitterness which I can never forget. Leave me with the last of an ancient race of the Ushers. While he spoke, the Lady Madeline, for so was she called, passed through a remote portion of the apartment, and, without having noticed my presence, disappeared. I regarded her with an utter astonishment not unmingled with dread. Yet I found it impossible to account for such feelings. A sensation of stupor oppressed me as my eyes followed her retreating steps. When the door at length closed upon her, my glance sought instinctively and eagerly to the countenance of my brother. But he buried his face in his hands, and I could only perceive that a far more than ordinary wanness overspread the emaciated fingers, which trickled many passionate tears. The disease of the Lady Madeline had long baffled the skill of her physicians. A settled apathy, a gradual wasting away of the person, and frequent although transient affections of a partially cataleptical character were the unusual diagnosis. Hitherto she had steadily borne up against the pressure of her malady, not betaken herself finally to bed. On the closing in of the evening of my arrival at the house, she succumbed, as her brother told me at the night with inexpressible agitation, to the prostrating power of the destroyer. Oh, and I learned that the glimpse I had obtained of her person would thus probably be the last I should obtain. That the lady, at least while living, would be seen by me no more. For several days ensuing, her name was unmentioned by either Usher or myself, and during this period I was busied in earnest endeavors to alleviate the melancholy of my friend. We painted and read together, for I listened, as if in a dream, to the wild improvisations of his speaking guitar. And thus, as a closer and still closer intimacy admitted me more unreservedly into the recesses of his spirit, more bitterly did I perceive the futility of all attempt at cheering a mind from which darkness, as if an inherent positive quality, poured forth upon all objects of the moral and physical universe in one unceasing radiation of gloom. I shall even bear about me a memory of the many solemn hours I thus spent alone with the master of the house of Usher. Yet I should fail in any attempt to convey an idea of the exact characters of the studies, or of the occupations in which he involved me, or led me the way. Time and excited and highly distempered ideality through a sulphureous luster over all. His long improvised dirges will ring forever in my ears. Among other things, I hold painfully in mind a certain singular perversion and amplification of the wild air of the last waltz of Von Weber, from the paintings over which his elaborate fancy brooded, and which grew touch by touch to vagueness at which I shuddered the more thrillingly, because I shuddered not knowing why. These paintings, vivid in images now are before me, I had in vain endeavored to deduce more than a small portion which should lie within the compass of merely written words. By the utter simplicity, by the nakedness of his designs, he arrested and overawed attention. If ever mortal painted an idea, that mortal was Roderick Usher, for me at least. One of the phantasmagoric conceptions of my friend, partaking not so rigidly of the spirit of abstraction, may be shadowed forth, although feebly, in words. A small picture presented the interior of an immensely long and rectangular vault or tunnel with low walls, smooth, white, and without interruption or device. Certain accessory points of the design served well to convey the idea that this excavation lay at an exceedingly depth below the surface of the earth. No outlet was observed in any portion of its vast extent, and no torch or other artificial source of light was discernible. Yet a flood of intense rays rolled throughout, bathed the whole in a ghastly and inappropriate splendor. Scuff, 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 scuff. Scuff, scuff, scuff. Oh, yeah. Mason Donna coming in with that 299. Chill. Fonta, Louisiana style. AC Scully. Mason Donna, tingle, tingle, tingle. Thank you, darling. Kim Maple, sir. Arlie. You heading out, Tanya? Thanks for stopping by. Scuff. Tingle, 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 scuff. Blood dragon. Oh, Papatina. Oh, Papatina. Brain tingles begin. Naughty Nicky. Blood tingles. I've just spoken of that morbid condition of the auditory nerve which rendered all music intolerable to the sufferer, with the exception of certain effects of stringed instruments. It was perhaps the narrow limits to which he thus confined himself upon the guitar which gave birth, in great measure, to the fantastic character of his performances. They must have been and were in the notes as well in the words of his wild fantasies, the result of that intense mental collectedness and concentration to which I have previously alluded as observable only in particular moments of the highest artificial excitement. Scuff. Gentle aura. Gentle aura. The words of one of these rhapsodies I have easily remembered. I was perhaps the more forcibly impressed with it as he gave it. Is he pop? Ska. Is he pop? Tingle. Professional paranormal research. Kathleen. Gentle aura. I fancy that I perceived first time full consciousness on the part of Usher, tottering of his lofty reason upon her throne. The verses, which were entitled The Haunted Palace, ran very nearly, if not accurately, thus. In the greenness of our valleys, by good angels tenanted, once a fair and stately palace, radiant palace, reared its head. In the monarch thought's dominion it stood there. Never seraph spread a pinion over fabric half so fair. Banners yellow, glorious, golden. On its roof did float and flow. This and all this was in the olden time long ago. In every gentle air that dallied in that sweet day, along the ramparts plumed and pallid, a winged odor went away. Wanderers in that happy valley through two luminous windows saw spirits moving musically to a lute's well-tuned law. Monarch. Around a throne were sitting Porphyrogene in state of glory well befitting. The ruler of the realm was seen. And all with pearl and ruby glowing was the fair palace door, through which came flowing, and sparkling evermore. A troop of echoes whose sweet duty was but to sing, and voices of surpassing beauty, the wit and wisdom of their king. But evil things in robes of sorrow assailed the monarch's high estate. Ah, let us mourn, for never morrow shall dawn upon him desolate. And round about his home the glory that blushed and bloomed is but a dim remembered story of the old time and tomb. Tales told in the dark, 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 dark. Tales told in the dark, dark, dark. Mama Carter, tingle, tingle. I will remember that suggestions arising from this ballad led us into a train of thought wherein there became manifest an opinion of Usher's, which I mentioned not so much on account of its novelty as on account of the pertinacity with which he maintained it. This opinion in its general form was that of the sentience of all vegetable things, but in his discordant fancy, the idea had assumed a more daring character and trespassed under certain conditions upon the kingdom of inorganization. I lack words to express the full extent or the earnest abandon of his persuasion. The belief, however, was connected, as I previously hinted, to great stones at the home of his forefathers. The conditions of the sentience had been here, he imagined, fulfilled in the method of collocation of these stones, in the order of their arrangement, as well in that of the many fungi which overspread them, and of the decayed trees which stood around. Above all, in the long undisturbed endurance of this arrangement, and in the reduplication in the still waters of the tarn. Its evidence, the evidence of the sentience, was to be seen, he said, and I here started when he spoke, and the gradual yet uncertain condensation of an atmosphere of their own about the waters and the walls. The result was discoverable, he added, that silent yet inopportune and terrible influence which for centuries had molded their destinies of his family, and which made him what I now saw him, what he was. Such opinions need no comment, and I will make none. Our books, the books which for years had formed no small portion of the mental existence of the invalid, might as be supposed in strict keeping with the character of phantasm. We pored together over such works as the Brevet et Chartreuse of Gressel, the Belphegor of Machiavelli, the Heaven and Hell of Swedenborg, the Subterranean Voyage of Nicholas Klim by Holberg, Usher would sit dreaming for hours. His chief delight, however, was found in the perusal of an exceedingly rare and curious book in Quarto Gothic. The manual of a forgotten church, the Vigile Mortuorum Secundum Coram Ecclesiae Maguntine. Honey tingles. I couldn't help think of the ritual of his work and of its probable influence upon the hypochondriac. One evening, he informed me abruptly that the Lady Madeline was no more. He stated his intention of preserving her corpse for a fortnight. Worldly reason, however, assigned for this singular proceeding was one which I did not feel at liberty to dispute. The brother had been led to his resolution by consideration of the unusual character of the malady of the deceased. Certain obtrusive and eager inquiries on the part of her medical men, and of the remote and exposed situation of the burial ground of the family. I will not deny that when I call to mind the sinister countenance of the person whom I met upon the staircase on the day of my arrival at the house, I had no desire to oppose what I regard as best but the harmless. It's by no means an unnatural precaution. The request of Ulster, I personally aided him in the arrangements for the temporary entombment. The body having been encoffined, we two alone bore it to its rest. The vault in which we placed it, small, damp, and entirely without means of admission for light, lying at great depth immediately beneath that portion of the building in which was my own sleeping apartment. It had been used, apparently, in remote feudal times, for the worst purposes of a donjon keep, and in later days, as a place of deposit for powder. Some other highly combustible substance. A portion of the floor, and the long archway through which we reached, carefully sheathed with copper. The door of a massive iron had been also similarly protected. Its immense weight caused an unusually sharp, grating sound as it moved upon its hinges. Little fish in the kitchen. Bass tingle. Having deposited our mournful burden upon trestles within this region of horror, partially turned aside and yet unscrewed the lid of the coffin, looked upon the face of the tenant, striking similitude between the brother and sister. Usher murmured out some words, which I learned that the deceased and himself had been twins. Naughty Nicky, Scully. Our glances, however, rested not long upon the dead, for we could not regard her unawed. The disease which had thus entombed the lady in the maturity of youth had left, as usual in all its maladies of a strictly cataleptical character. The mockery of a faint blush upon the bosom and the face, and that suspiciously lingering smile upon the lip which is so terrible in death. We replaced and screwed down the lid. To the scarcely less gloomy apartments of the upper portion of the house. Russell, tingle. Welcome, buddy. Now, some days of bitter grief having elapsed, an observable change came over the features of the mental disorder of my friend. His ordinary manner had vanished. His ordinary occupations were neglected or forgotten. He roamed from chamber to chamber with hurried, unequal, and objectless step. The pallor of his countenance had assumed, if possible, a more ghastly hue, but the luminousness of his eye had utterly gone out. Scuff. Oh, the once occasional huskiness of his tone was heard no more, and a tremulous quaver, as if of extreme terror. There were times, indeed, when I thought his unceasingly agitated mind was laboring with some oppressive secret, to divulge which he struggled for the necessary courage. At times, again, I was obliged to resolve all into the mere inexplicable vagaries of madness. For I beheld him gazing upon vacancy for long hours, in an attitude of the profoundest attention, as if listening to some imaginary sound. It was no wonder that his condition terrified, that it infected me. I felt creeping upon me, but a slow yet certain degrees. The wild influences of his own fantastic yet impressive superstitions. Hey Mark, how you doing, buddy? You got that jacked up on me again? What the fuck they keep doing that for? Keep pulling my mic down. What's that easy? Oh, let's catch and breathe real quick. How's everybody doing out there? Catch my breath for a second. Some of that stuff's quite long-winded. How you doing, Liz? Cat, it's great to see you. Hazel Dama, Jonica, Harley's Delight, Maboska Russell. Yeah, finally starting to get caught up to myself. Get some productions underway. I mean, I wouldn't say things are quite back to normal yet, but yeah, that put that picture up there, Jonica painted. It's beautiful. Probably gonna read The Raven too, so I'm assuming that was painted for The Raven, maybe. It's great work, Jonica. Yeah, we talked about that. We wanted to put your painting up. So pretty. How you doing, Jen? Jen. A couple more pages to go. I hope my voice is going to hold up. Dank tingles. Dank tingles. Tongue clicking. Nikki, you hear the Swahilians in the distance? They're calling your name. Scully. Oh, I'm feeling good, Jen. Thank you. Casper tingles. Next lover. Couple quick announcements while I'm thinking about it. Tomorrow night, Izzy Pop and I are going to finish the reading of Bonnie and Clyde, and soon we'll have auditions for Shawshank Redemption and Wizard of Oz. A couple of other submissions I got too. I need to get into the works. Some submissions from people like you. So, what else shall we do? Channels are channels. How much we got left? That's not too much, really. It was especially upon retiring to bed late in the night of the 7th or 8th day after the placing of the Lady Madeline within the dungeon that I experienced the full power of such feelings. Sleep came not near my couch, while the hours waned and waned away. I struggled to reason off the nervousness which had dominion over me. I endeavored to believe that much, if not all of what I felt was due to the bewildering influence of the gloomy furniture of the room. Of the dark and tattered draperies, which tortured into motion of my breath of a rising tempest, swayed fitfully to and fro upon the walls. An irrepressible tremor gradually pervaded my brain. It over sat upon my very heart, an incubus of utterly causeless harm. Shaking this off with a gasp and struggle, I uplifted myself upon the pillows, peered into the intense darkness of the chamber, hearkened me certain low and indefinite sounds which came, overpowered by an intense sentiment of horror, unaccountable yet unendurable. I threw on my clothes with haste, paced rapidly to and fro through the apartment. Taking but a few turns in this manner on a light step-on and adjourning staircase arrested my attention. I presently recognized it as that of Usher. In an instant afterward, he rapped with a gentle touch at my door and entered bearing a lamp. He looked cadaverous. There was a species of mad hilarity in his eyes, and evidently restrained the hysteria in his whole demeanor. His air appalled me, but anything was preferable to the solitude which I had so long endured, and I even welcomed his presence as a relief. "And you have not seen it," he said abruptly, after having stared about him for some moments in silence. "You have not seen it. Stay, you shall." Thus speaking, having carefully shaded his lamp, he hurried to one of the casements, threw it freely open to the storm. The impetuous fury of the entering gust nearly lifted us from our feet. It was indeed a tempestuous yet sternly beautiful night. "You must not, you shall not behold this," said I, shuddering, to Usher, as I led him with gentle violence from the window to a seat. "These appearances, which bewilder you, are merely electrical phenomena, not uncommon. Or it may be that they have their gasping origin in the rank miasma of the tarn. Let us close this casement. The air is chilling and dangerous to your frame.
Yeah, maybe so, huh? Overdo it. Check out those. Y'all.
Marcel Tinkle. Angela Critters, my dear. Welcome, Angela Critters. I'd like to welcome you to the house. But tomorrow I die, and today I would unburden my soul. My immediate purpose is to place before the world, plainly, succinctly, and without comment, a series of mere household events. And their consequences? These events have terrified, have tortured, have destroyed me. Yet I will not attempt to expound them. To me, they have presented little but horror. To many they will seem less terrible than Baroque's. Hereafter, perhaps, some intelligent may be found which will reduce my phantasm to the commonplace. Some intellect more calm, more logical, and far less excitable than my own, which will perceive in the circumstances I detail withal nothing more than an ordinary succession of very natural causes and effects. Check it AAP. From my infancy, I was noted for the docility and humanity of my disposition. My tenderness of heart was so even conspicuous as to make me the jest of my companions. I was especially fond of animals and was indulged by my parents with a great variety of pets. With these I spent most of my time, and never was so happy as when feeding and caressing them. This peculiarity of character grew with my growth, and in my manhood, I derived from it one of my principal sources of pleasure. To those who have cherished an affection for a faithful and sagacious dog, I need hardly be at the trouble of explaining the nature or the intensity of the gratification thus derivable. There is something in the unselfish and self-sacrificing love of a brute, which goes directly to the heart of him who has had frequent occasion to test the paltry friendship and gossamer fidelity of mere man. I married early, and was happy to find in my wife a disposition not uncongenial with my own. Observing my partiality for domestic pets, she lost no opportunity of procuring those of the most agreeable kind. We had birds, goldfish, a fine dog, rabbits, a small monkey, and a cat. Check it AAP. Welcome. Blood dragoon. This latter was a remarkably large and beautiful animal, entirely black and sagacious to an astonishing degree. And speaking of his intelligence, my wife, who at heart was not a little tinctured with superstition. Check it, check. And speaking of his intelligence, my wife, who at heart was not a little tinctured with superstition, made frequent allusion to the ancient popular notion, which regarded all black cats as witches in disguise. Spark it up, strawberry banana. Pluto was his name. He was my favorite playmate. My favorite pet and playmate. Pluto. I alone fed him, and he attended me wherever I went about the house. It was even with difficulty that I could prevent him from following me through the streets. Our friendship lasted in this manner for several years, during which my general temperament and character, through the instrumentality of the fiend intemperance, had I blushed to confess it, experienced a radical alteration for the worse. I grew day by day more moody, more irritable, more regardless of the feeling of others. I suffered myself to use intemperate language to my wife. At length, I even offered her personal violence. My pets, of course, were made to feel the change in my disposition. I not only neglected, but ill-used them. For Pluto, however, I still retained sufficient regard to restrain me from maltreating him. As I made no scruple of maltreating the rabbits, the monkey, or even the dog, when by accident or through affection they came in my way. Grandma Moses. Weekend RV. You're welcome to the House of Thrones. The driver, Sensei, the driver. Sensei. Grandma Moses. Grandma Moses. AAB's Variety Channel. AAB's Variety Channel. AAB's Variety Channel. Skus. The driver sensei. Benny Loco. Benny Loco. One night, returning home, much intoxicated from one of my haunts about town, I fancied that the cat avoided my presence. I seized him when, in his fright at my violence, he inflicted a slight wound upon my hand with his teeth. The fury of a demon instantly possessed me. I knew myself no longer. My original soul seemed at once to take its flight from my body in a more than fiendish malevolence. Gin nurtured, thrilled every fiber of my frame. I took from my waistcoat pocket a penknife, opened it, grasped the poor beast by the throat, and deliberately cut one of its eyes from the socket. I blush, I burn, I shudder, while I pen the damnable atrocity. Skus. Ola Joe, the crocheting shawl sailor. Ola Joe, the crocheting sailor. Sagenta. Sagenta, when reason returned with the morning. When I slept off the fumes, but it was at best a feeble and equivocal feeling, and the soul remained untouched. I again plunged into excess, and soon drowned in wine all memory of the deed. In the meantime, the cat slowly recovered. The socket of the lost eye presented, it is true, a frightful appearance, but he no longer appeared to suffer any pain. He went about the house as usual, but, as might be expected, fled in extreme terror at my approach. I had so much of my old heart left as to be at first grieved by this evident dislike on the part of a creature which had once so loved me. But this soon gave place to irritation, and then came, as if to my final and irrevocable overthrow, the spirit of perverseness. Of this spirit, philosophy takes no account. Yet I'm not so more sure that my soul lives. than I am of that perverseness is one of the primitive impulses of the human heart, one of the indivisible primary faculties or sentiments which give direction to the character of man. Who has not 100 times found himself committing a vile or stupid action for no other reason than because he knows he should not? Check. Have we not a perpetual inclination in the teeth of our best judgment to violate that which is law, merely because we understand it to be such? This spirit of perverseness, I say, came to my final overthrow. Angela Critters. Angela Critters, my dear. Welcome, Angela Critters. Skus, 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 skus. Check, Angela. BC Treasure Trails. BC Treasure Trails. Sunflower bloom. Sunflower bloom. Sunflower bloom. Benny Loco. Benny Loco. Benny Loco. Skus, 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 skus. AAP's Variety Channel. Welcome to the House of Thrillers. BC Treasure Trails. BC Treasure Trails. I slipped a noose about its neck and hung it to the limb of a tree. Hung it with the tears streaming from my eyes, and with the bitterest remorse at my heart. Hung it because I knew that it had loved me, and because I felt it had given me no reason or offense. Hung it because I knew that in doing so I was committing a sin, a deadly sin that would so jeopardize my immortal soul as to place it, if such were a thing possible, even beyond the reach of the infinite mercy of the most merciful and most terrible God. On the night of the day on which this most cruel deed was done, I was aroused from sleep by the cry of fire. Fire. By the fire. Check, 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 check. Yunga Arts by Luz. Yunga Arts by Luz. Sunflower bloom. Sunflower bloom. The curtains of my bed were in flames. The whole house was blazing. It was with great difficulty that my wife, a servant, and myself made our escape from the conflagration. Made our escape from the conflagration. Check, check, check. The destruction was complete. My entire worldly wealth was swallowed up, and I resigned myself thenceforward to despair. above the weakness of seeking to establish a sequence of cause and effect between the disaster and atrocity. But I am detailing a chain of facts and wish not to leave even a possible link imperfect. On the day succeeding the fire, I visited the ruins. The walls, with one exception, had fallen in. This exception was found in a compartment wall not very thick, which stood about the middle of the house, and against which had rested the head of my bed. The plastering had here in great measure resisted the action of the fire, a fact which I attributed to its having been recently spread. Check, 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 check. A fact which I attributed to its having been recently spread. Check, spell check, check, check. About this wall a dense crowd were collected, and many persons seemed to be examining a particular portion of it with very minute and eager attention. The word strange, singular, and other similar expressions excited my curiosity. I approached and saw, as if graven in bas relief upon the white surface, the figure of a gigantic cat. Camille Tyler, brand welcome, Camille. The impression was given with an accuracy truly marvelous. There was a rope about the animal's neck. When I first beheld this apparition, for I could scarcely regard it as less, my wonder and my terror were extreme. But at length reflection came to my aid. The cat, I remembered, had been hung in a garden adjacent to the house. Upon the alarm of fire, this garden had been immediately filled by a crowd, by someone of whom the animal must have been cut from the tree and thrown through an open window into my chamber. Check, Gina, check, 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 check. Scuss, 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 scuss. Gina, piano, Vinci. Gina, piano, Vinci. Heavy metal shot of the freshly spread plaster, the lime of which, with the flames and the ammonia from the carcass, I then accomplished the portraiture as I saw it. Although I thus readily accounted to my reason, if not altogether to my conscience, for the startling fact just detailed, it did not the less fail to make a deep impression upon my fancy. For months I could not rid myself of the phantasm of the cat. And thus during this period, there came back into my spirit a half sentiment that seemed, but was not, or went so far as to regret the loss of the animal and to look about me among the vile haunts which I now habitually frequented for another pet of the same species and of somewhat similar appearance with which to supply its place. Check, Rita. Check, Rita. Check, 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 check. Rita's juicy life. Scuss, 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 scuss. In a den of more than infamy, my attention was suddenly drawn to some black object reposing upon the head of one of the immense hogsheads of gin or of rum, which constitute the chief furniture of the apartment. I had been looking steadily at the top of this hogshead for some minutes, and what now caused me surprise was the fact that I had not sooner perceived the object thereupon. I approached it and touched it with my hand. It was a black cat, a very large one, fully as large as Pluto. And closely resembling him in every respect but one. Pluto had not a white hair upon any portion of his body, but this cat had a large, although indefinite splotch of white, covering nearly the whole region of the breast. Upon my touching him, he immediately arose, purred loudly, rubbed against my hand, and appeared delighted with my notice. This, then, was the very creature of which I was in search. I at once offered to purchase it out of the landlord, but this person made no claim to it, knew nothing of it, had never seen it before. I continued my caresses, and when I prepared to go home, the animal evinced a disposition to accompany me. I permitted it to do so, occasionally stooping and patting it as I proceeded. When it reached the house, it domesticated itself at once and became immediately a great favorite with my wife. For my own part, I soon found a dislike to it arising within me. This was just the reverse of what I had anticipated, but I know not how or why it was. Its evidence of fondness for myself rather disgusted and annoyed me. By slow degrees, these feelings of disgust and annoyance rose into the bitterness of hatred. I avoided the creature, a certain sense of shame, and the remembrance of my former deed of cruelty preventing me from physically abusing it. I did not, for some weeks, strike or otherwise violently ill-use it, but gradually, very gradually, I came to look upon it with unutterable loathing and to flee silently from its odious presence, as from the breath of pestilence. Benny, oh Benny, so yummy, oh Benny. Grokowski, Grokowski. Welcome, Grokowski. Check, Rita, check. This circumstance, however, only endeared it to my wife, who, as I already said, possessed, in a high degree, that humanity of feeling which had once been my distinguishing trait, and the source of many of my simplest and purest pleasures. Check, BB, check. Check, 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 check. BB truth. BB truth. Check. Angela Critters. Angela Critters. With my aversion to this cat, however, its partiality for myself seemed to increase. It followed my footsteps with a pertinacity which it would be difficult to make the reader comprehend. Whenever I sat, it would crouch beneath my chair or spring upon my knees, covering me with its loathsome caresses. If I arose to walk, it would get between my feet and thus nearly throw me down. Or, fastening its long and sharp claws in my dress, clamber in this manner to my breast. At such times, although I longed to destroy it with a blow, I was yet withheld from doing so, partly by a memory of my former crime, but chiefly, let me confess it at once, by absolute dread of the beast. Hey, look, squirrel. Hey, look, squirrel. BB truth. BB truth. BB truth. Sk, 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 sk. This dread was not exactly a dread of physical evil, and yet I should be at a loss how otherwise to define it. I am almost ashamed to own, yes, even in this felon's cell, I am almost ashamed to own that the terror and horror with which the animal inspired me had been heightened by one of the merest chimeras it would be possible to conceive. My wife had called my attention more than once to the character of the mark of white hair, of which I have spoken, and which constituted the sole visible difference between the strange beast and the one I had destroyed. The reader will remember that this mark, although large, had been originally very indefinite, but by slow degrees nearly imperceptible, and which for a long time my reason struggled to reject as fanciful, it had at length assumed a rigorous distinctness of outline. It was now the representation of an object that I shudder to name. And for this, above all, I loathed and dreaded, and would have rid myself of the monster had I dared. It was now, I say, the image of a hideous, of a ghastly thing, of the gallows. Oh, mournful and terrible engine of horror and of crime, of agony and of death. J-Dog. And now I was indeed wretched beyond the wretchedness of mere humanity. And a brute beast, whose fellow I had contemptuously destroyed, a brute beast, to work out for me, a man fashioned in the image of the high God. Alas, so much of insufferable woe, alas. Neither by day or night knew I the blessing of rest anymore. During the former, the creature left me no moment alone, and in the latter I started hourly from dreams of unutterable fear to find the hot breath of the thing upon my face, and its vast weight, an incarnate nightmare that I had no power to shake off. Incumbent eternal upon my heart.
Izzy Pop. Hey, Janica.
Beneath the pressure of torments such as these, the feeble remnant of the good within me succumbed. Evil thoughts became my sole enemies. The darkest and most evil of thoughts.
Ricky Tingles.
The moodiness of my usual
Sable
temper increased a hatred of all things and of all mankind.
Magic flying potato.
All from the sudden, frequent, and ungovernable outburst of a fury to which I now blindly abandon myself. My uncomplaining wife, alas, was by the most unusual and the most patient of sufferers. One day she accompanied me upon some household errand
Edgar done
into the cellar of the old building which our poverty compelled us to inhabit. The cat followed me down the steep stairs and nearly throwing me headlong, exasperated me to madness. Uplifting an axe and forgetting in my wrath the childish dread which had hitherto stayed my hand, I aimed to blow at the animal, which, of course, would have proved instantly fatal had it descended as I wished.
Is that right, Jenica?
But this blow was arrested by the hand of my wife, goaded by the interference into a rage more than demoniacal. I withdrew my arm from her grasp and buried the axe in her brain. She fell dead upon the spot without a groan. Scuss. This hideous murder accomplished, I set myself forthwith, and with entire deliberation, to the task of concealing the body. I knew that I could not remove it from the house, either by day or by night, without the risk of being observed by the neighbors. Many projects entered my mind. At one period, I thought of cutting the corpse into minute fragments and destroying them by fire. At another, I resolved to dig a grave for it in the floor of the cellar. Again, I deliberated about casting it in the well in the yard, about packing it in a box, as its merchandise, with the usual arrangements, and so getting a porter to take it from the house. Finally, I hit upon what I considered a far better expedient than either of these.
Thank you, everybody, for coming
I
out tonight.
determined to wall it up in the cellar,
Today,
as the monks of the Middle Ages are recorded to have walled up their victims. For a purpose such as this, the cellar was well adapted. Its walls were loosely constructed and had lately been plastered throughout with a rough plaster, which the dampness of the atmosphere had prevented from hardening. Moreover, in one of the walls was a projection caused by a false chimney or fireplace that had been filled up and made to resemble the rest of the cellar. I made no doubt that I could readily displace the bricks at this point, insert the corpse, and wall the whole up as
oh my God, I'm about to fall asleep.
so that no eye could detect anything suspicious.
Take me a nap in a little while.
And in this calculation, I was not deceived. By means of a crowbar, I easily dislodged the bricks, and having carefully deposited the body against the inner wall, I propped it in that position. While with little trouble, I relayed the whole
Wind
structure
outside's
as
howling
it
like a
originally
wolf.
stood.
Damn.
Having procured mortar, sand, and hair with every possible precaution,
Izzy, how's your mama doing
I
today?
prepared
Like
a
getting the
plaster,
floor done?
which could not be distinguished from the old. And with this, I very carefully went over the new brickwork. When I had finished, I felt satisfied. That all was right. The wall did not present the slightest appearance of having been disturbed. The rubbish on the floor was picked up with the minutest care. I looked around triumphantly and said to myself, here at least then my labor's not been in vain. My next step was to look for the beast, which had been the cause of so much wretchedness. For I had, at length, firmly resolved to put it to its death. Had I been able to meet it with it at the moment, there could have been no doubt of its fate. But it appeared that the crafty animal had been alarmed at the violence of my previous anger, and it forbore to present itself in my present mood. It's impossible to describe or imagine the deep, blissful sense of relief which the absence of the detested creature occasioned in my bosom. It did not make its appearance during the night, and thus for one night at least, since its introduction into the house, I soundly and tranquilly slept. I slept even with the burden of murder upon my soul. The second and the third day passed, and still my tormentor came not. Once again I breathed as a free man. The monster in terror had fled the premises forever. I should behold it no more. My happiness was supreme. The guilt of my dark deed disturbed me but little. Some few inquiries had been made, but these had been readily answered. Even a search had been instituted, but of course nothing was to be discovered.
Y'all hear me?
I looked upon my future felicity as secure.
Check, check, check.
Upon the fourth day of the assassination, a party of police came, very unexpectedly, into the house and proceeded again to make rigorous investigation of the premises. Secure, however, in the inscrutability of my place of concealment, I felt no embarrassment.
Sound check.
The officers bade me accompany them in their search. They left no nook or corner unexplored. At length, for the third or fourth time, they descended into the cellar.
Check.
I quivered not in a muscle. My heart beat calmly as that of one who slumbers in innocence. I walked the cellar from end to end. I folded my arms upon my bosom and roamed easily to and fro. The police were thoroughly satisfied and
You
prepared
can't
to
hear me.
depart.
Nobody telling me nothing.
The glee at my heart was too strong to be restrained. I burned to say but one word, by way of triumph, and to render doubly sure their assurance of my guiltlessness. Gentlemen, I said at last, as the party ascended the steps, I delight to have allayed your suspicions. I wish you all health and a little more courtesy. By the by, gentlemen, this is a very well constructed house. In the rabid desire to say something easily, I scarcely knew what I uttered at all. I may say, an excellently well constructed house. These walls, are you going, gentlemen? These walls are solidly put together. And here, through the mere frenzy of bravado, I rapped heavily with a cane which I held in my hand. Upon that very portion of the brickwork, behind where stood the corpse of the wife of my bosom.
Bedhead.
But may God shield and deliver me from the fangs of the arch-fiend. No sooner had the reverberation of my blows sunk into silence than I was answered by a voice from within the tomb, by a cry, at first muffled and broken, like the sobbing of a child, and then quickly swelling
like
into
Bill Murray on a bad day after he just got a haircut.
continuous scream, utterly anomalous and inhuman. A howl, a wailing shriek, half of horror and half of triumph.
Yeah, but people like me better with short hair, so.
Such as might have arisen only out of hell, conjointly from the throats of the damned.
And sometimes long hair makes me look like a criminal.
In the damnation.
Spike it up.
Of my own thoughts, it is folly to speak. Swooning, I staggered to the opposite wall. For one instant, the party upon the stairs remained motionless. Through extremity of terror and awe. In the next, a dozen stout arms were tolling at the wall. It fell bodily. The corpse,
Oh, thank you so much, Carrie.
already greatly decayed and clotted with gore, stood erect before the eyes of the spectators.
Again, you've listened to Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher
Upon his
and
head,
Black Cat,
the
which is
red
playing
extended
now.
mouth and solitary eye of fire, sat the hideous beast whose craft had seduced me into murder, and whose informing voice had consigned me to the hangman. I had walled the monster up within the tomb.
Yeah, Izzy has a 40-pound Maine Coon cat called Nugget.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Edgar Allan Poe. The Black Cat.
Oh, that's it. Hey, Stock Explorer. How you doing, Nora?
ZZ Motivation. ZZ Motivation. CC, CC motivation. Check it, CC.
Appreciate everybody coming by, helping me out with watch hours today.
Check.
Let's see what we got
Check.
here.
Edgar Allan.
Let me pull up something real quick. Izzy just sent me some videos. Let me get this off of there. Check. Let's see. Find that. Let me download that real fast. Got that already? 1 second. Shit. Layer. Media file. Upload. What? New sound? It's for Laissez, Bon Temps Rouler. What else you got there? That's cool. Yeah, Izzy made this. It's for our play Laissez Le Bon Temps Rouler. I don't know if I'm what this download. Let's see. Upload. Yeah, we're about ready to go. Figure out a good night to do this. I'll give you a call later. We'll talk about it. I'm about to go take me a good nap. So go ahead and end the stream, you guys. Thank you for everything. And I guess we can play the Laissez trailer. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon.